Hey everyone, we are back for another Let's Play. With me as always is Corey. Say hi, Corey.
Hey, how's it going?
And with us this time is also Bill from the great Amiga Bill Twitch channel and from the Guru Meditation channel on YouTube. Say hi, Bill.
What's up, guys? I'm psyched to kick some butt today.
Yeah, me too. So, and this, we're playing from that great Capcom beat 'em up bundle that we got previously, that we've already played a couple of games on. This time we're playing Captain Commando, and it's a great up to 3-player game, so that's perfect for our needs tonight. And so we're going to get started. And go ahead, everybody, press start. There we go, there's everybody. Select who you want to be. I'll be the bandage guy. There we go.
There we go.
I'm Captain Commando himself.
Yeah, you've got a cool, the running jump dash attack you can do sets everybody on fire, which is pretty awesome.
No way. I don't know how to do that attack.
It's the tap forward twice and then do the jump and then the attack, and you'll use your like elbow or there it is. That was it. And if it hits, I think it can even hit multiple people at a time, and it'll just light them all on fire. Yep, so I should remind everyone, 3 different people are playing from 3 different parts of the world. I'm in France, Bill's in New York, and Corey is in Tennessee, right, Corey?
Yep.
And so there's a little bit more lag sometimes than when it's just 2 of us playing. But we did a quick test, and it never seemed to be too bad. So if someone wants to, they could jump in that mech, but it's not really necessary.
I've already got a mech.
Yeah, a mech and a mech, there we go. A baby piloting a mech, piloting a mech.
Nothing weird about that.
Not at all. Not in this game.
So when did this game come out? 'Cause I know this is an arcade game, and this is an arcade perfect version of the game.
Yes, this is, or at least it certainly seems to me to be an exact arcade port. It's definitely not a port of any console version like the Super Nintendo version, although the Super Nintendo version was a really good port from what I recall. It would definitely have a bit less stuff, a little lower resolution screens, but it was definitely a very good port. But no, this is a port of the actual I said Amiga, oops, actual arcade version. There was no Amiga port of this game that I know of. But that's a good question. I don't know what year it came out. Hopefully, when in editing, I'll put a little infographic up explaining more about when this game was released. But that's a good question. I do not know, like, how it relates in its release date to the other great beat-em-up games and other Capcom games. I'm really not sure where this lands.
90s?
Almost certainly. Yeah.
I believe so. Probably early 90s.
Oops.
That's what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
I'm feeling the early 90s pixel vibe.
Yeah.
I love it, man. In the early 90s, I used to, every Friday night, me and my buddy Chris would go to the local bowling alley.
Nice.
And we'd bowl, and then we'd play Dead Arcade as well. And then that's when Street Fighter 2 came out for the first time. That's when Mortal Kombat came out, and we just kind of would experience all the games every Friday night. And then the great Ben and Jerry's next door, we used to get tons of ice cream. It was awesome.
Nice. That sounds like a good time for sure.
Yeah. And we played some, multiplayer teams. We Turtles. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I know that you could play like 4-player maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. It was 2 screens stuck side by side for like ultra wide screen for a lot of game real estate and the gameplay real estate, so to speak. And Armored Warriors really could have benefited from that. That's the game we played, Corey and I played previously from this bundle. Oh, okay. It's a superb game. I can't even imagine though, like I think you can play up to 4-player and you control giant mechs and they're really big sprites on screen and it's just one monitor. So I can't even imagine how clustered it is and how hard it is to see what's going on with 4 players. But it still is a fantastic game. I would, yep, go ahead.
I think the characters in that game were almost twice as tall as the ones in this one. I mean,
and twice as wide. Absolutely, yeah.
When I think of big sprites, I can't help but think about Sword of Sodan on the Amiga.
Yeah,
that was like a game with huge sprites, but it was just, I love that game. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, just so Amiga tech nerds don't freak out, Bill is using the common vernacular, not techie nerd speak, so he just means moving game characters. he probably knows, or even if he doesn't, we know that they're blitter objects on the Amiga, bobs and not sprites, but same difference. He just meant moving objects on the screen.
The bobs, baby. Once you use the bobs, you'll never want to use a sprite ever again.
Well, yeah, there are definitely, especially on the Amiga, since the sprite power, as they sort of wanted you to use it, was extremely limiting compared to consoles and arcade boards. But then later on in the Amiga's life, they came up with those amazing tricks, like repeating the sprites to fill the whole screen for background layers and stuff like that. But yeah, just sort of on paper, the Amiga's sprites were incredibly limited. Thank goodness they had the foresight to, and really focused on the blitting power of the Amiga, which could allow for giant, as you mentioned, Sword of Sodin. I'll in editing, I'll put in some footage of Sword of Sodin so people can see what we're talking about. But it's
a beautiful game.
Yeah, really, I think it ran in 32 color mode and really large on-screen characters. Especially back then, it was just a technical marvel, which a lot of Amiga games were. Like, technically amazing and just not very fun to play. Like, as far as the action arcade games. You know, one of the other famous ones in that regard was Shadow of the Beast, which was beautiful and sounded amazing, but the gameplay was not great. And the famous final boss was a giant, crusty big toe. So that was definitely a different sense of gameplay design happening in the West back then compared to Japanese arcade game developers. Yep.
Now I'm noticing the strangeness of the Baby Mac wearing pants.
Oh yeah, he's wearing fabric pants. That's a good point. Somebody is just walking in the corner of the screen. Is that you, Bill?
I don't know. I think I died.
You're the ninja?
No, I should be. I was Captain.
Yeah, but now somebody is the blue ninja walking at the bottom right of the screen.
Oh, I guess it's me.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. I was the captain.
Yeah, you must have died and then selected the ninja without even realizing it and fell on screen and didn't even notice.
Yeah.
That's a problem with 3 or more player games, is you can lose track of who you are.
That's cool. I dressed up as a ninja when I was 12 years old for Halloween, so
awesome.
I feel at home. Ninjas are coming back too, especially now with COVID. Everyone's wearing masks. I definitely bust out my ninja outfit.
Definitely.
Next time I go to the supermarket, I got the hood, the mask, everything, man. Set. I had nunchucks. I got a shuriken. Nice. Actually, I got a shuriken with my copy of Tiger Claw.
Nice.
For the Amiga. Came with a shuriken.
And of course, back then in the 80s, they were less overprotective, the parents and society in general. So of course, they would let a little kid go trick-or-treating in an all-black ninja costume and walk around the streets and the neighborhoods.
With sword out, everything. The nunchuck, sword.
Yeah, but I mean, like
sharpened blade. But
yeah.
If I whacked someone with a sword, it was gonna do some damage.
But I mean, now, like, if a kid wanted to go trick-or-treating as a ninja, it would be like a fluorescent, glow-in-the-dark ninja with bike reflectors taped to his ninja costume. He'd be the most unstealthy ninja ever.
Now, I just saw something happen to me. I got electrocuted, and it's kind of something that, reminds me a lot. It's very Capcom-esque, where I got electrocuted, and my skull, like, you can see my skeleton.
Yep.
And I noticed, I'm one of the few lucky ones to have played Metro Siege.
Yep.
That's similar to Metro Siege. So is that something that you borrowed from games like this?
Not specifically from this game, and in fact, I had not. And it may have. I definitely played this game over the years before starting real work on Metro Siege. So I could have been doing it from memory, but it wasn't a direct reference. But what did influence me greatly, and what I did have in mind, was Capcom really perfected a cool sort of visual optimization trick for beat-em-up games in Final Fight. When any character gets hit with like a grenade or an explosion and they get engulfed in flame, the whole character gets sort of engulfed in a cocoon of flame. So you could see a humanoid figure shape like an outline, but just completely engulfed. So you can't see any detail of the character. And that's great because you can use that same artwork for any character, whether it be any player, a boss, It could be the smallest character like Guy or Mike Hager. It could be a big boss. It doesn't matter. It's a big enough humanoid cocoon fire shape that you can use it for every character. And for the electrocution effect in Metro Siege, I used a similar trick where I created a humanoid skeleton shape but surrounded by this bright electric glow. And that big bright electric glow enlarged the overall character size so much that I'm able to use it if you pick the female selectable character Kim or one of the bigger male characters. It doesn't matter, or even the boss, the first level boss. Anyone that gets electrocuted, that same artwork can be used. And I took it a step further, and what I do is I alternate for a big part of that. Oh, sorry, I just threw somebody into everybody there. But I alternate the electrocution skull image with an actual frame of the character in a similar pose, back and forth like a flickering effect, which is perfect for electrocution. And it makes it seem even more like it's custom art. It's really hard to tell that it's the same art. I just got cut in half.
You literally.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was nasty.
Yeah. Again, talking about how they were much more protective of kids back then. Like, you don't see violence, like carnage that extreme these days in stuff that's like kind of intended for general audience. But back then, they were much more cut in half ninja.
I'm glad I wasn't protected, man. When
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat came out, I was so happy and excited and thrilled. Oh man, I'm
Mortal
glad.
Monday, I think. Like it came out on a Monday, so they called it Mortal Monday or something.
Wow, you remember that?
Yeah.
Cut in
So,
half again.
At a
Yep.
game like this,
Mhm.
like a brawler like this, do you
Yep.
guys have any tips or techniques on how to, on how to succeed at the game, or again, in general, not specifically this one, but in general, like beat 'em ups like this one?
Yeah, have a lot of quarters. I mean, I'm kidding. I mean, they were designed to be like token eaters to make money, the arcade games. But obviously, you can get good at anything. It's really a matter of playing the game enough to memorize behavior patterns of the characters. And aside from that, just, I guess, get good at footwork and maneuvering yourself so you're least likely to be kind of surrounded or ambushed. And then the other thing is, when you're playing multiplayer mode, by default, most of these arcade games, you can hit your fellow players or at least throw enemies into them. So it's often a really good idea to have a kind of mutual agreement between players that you take the sort of top half of the playable area of the screen and I'll take the bottom half. That way you're not sort of causing friendly fire and harming each other as much as you are... let's see, where's the jump button there? There we go, on the mech.
I like that. Again, on simpler terms, like if I play like Banshee, one of the classic vertical shooting scrollers on the Amiga, like if someone takes left side of the screen, I take right side.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing, but since this is a horizontally scrolling game with vertical movement, it's instead of left and right half, what makes more sense is upper and lower.
Yeah.
Or in the case of a 3-player game, I guess you could break it into thirds, like middle, upper, and lower.
Yeah, since you mentioned it, I'm rocking the middle right here. I'm the middle man.
Yeah. Baby in the middle.
I would say the other thing, too, is just getting used to the way each enemy behaves,
Yeah, exactly.
They kind of mix that up in all the different brawlers,
Yeah.
So over time, you'll get used to that, and then you kind of develop an instinct when you see that guy, like what to do immediately. So. And
there's almost... Yep, go ahead, Corey.
No,
I think that...
I was gonna say,
Bill.
I obviously, I remember when Street Fighter 2 came out, one of my Achilles heels was that I really didn't know all the moves of the characters. So I imagine knowing all the intricacies of all the moves and knowing what moves the character is good at. That's probably a lot to do with it too.
Oh yeah, there's no. It would take extreme luck to beat someone that played the game so much more than you that they really understand the exact timing to block and counter and sort of use footwork to stay outside of range of your character. If they're very familiar with your character's attacks and moves and you're not familiar with theirs, you're going to have a really hard time fighting against them. like a really especially a really good combat based game like Tekken or King of Fighters or Street Fighter 2. A really good player could use very basic attacks like a jab and walk and jump and beat someone that's just like a general button masher.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is like if you get used to that sort of placement and timing. Now I'm Captain Commando. But anyway, yeah, Bill was nice enough to shamelessly plug Metro Siege for me, so I should talk about that a little more. So as is probably obvious now, at least two of us here are longtime Amiga people, and so Metro Siege is it's kind of a lifelong dream of mine to make a really high quality retro beat-em-up game that happens to run on classic Amiga computers. I grew up with them. They were incredibly powerful home computers back in the day. This is like before Mega Drive came out. This is when they were basically just 8-bit systems, was when the Amiga was introduced. And it was just incredibly capable of nice 16-bit graphics and console and arcade quality stuff. But because of the way the market was and publishers and all kinds of reasons, while there were fantastic computer type games like SimCity and Settlers and a lot of great Lemmings, a lot of great games on the Amiga, when it came to arcade and console style games, it was really lacking. The ports of name brand games like Street Fighter and Final Fight were just not very good, and then a lot of the original games, some of them would look really good or sound really good, but in general the gameplay and character design really was not up to par with what was being done by the Japanese developers of arcade systems. And so it literally, I was starting in my early mid-teens, I was just really frustrated. I was a big Amiga fan and always frustrated of the lack of quality games in the arcade console style. And so finally, I just met a team through the Amiga user group, Facebook groups and forums. I met a team that was able and willing to work with me, and now, awesomely enough, Corey has joined in the Metro Siege team as well. Like he had already designed the first level boss, and he's going to be doing all the sprite design and a lot of the design work on the bosses at the very least for Metro Siege, so I'm super excited about that. But anyway, so the game has been in development, I think, already over a year. Time flies. I'm really bad with time, but it's going really well. The core engine is really well along. The combat system is really sophisticated. That's one thing that was really important to me. The beat-em-up genre is one of my favorites. I grew up playing them with my brother, especially Streets of Rage 2, but we played almost all of them first on consoles and then with like MAME and other emulators. And to me, it's really important that the main characters, the playable characters, have a big enough range of moves and abilities that a player can actually mix up their gameplay style and keep things kind of fresh, so it doesn't get too monotonous and not too button poundy, so to speak. Like in Metro Siege, there's several ways to hit enemies while they're down, hit them in groups, throw enemies into other ones to kind of stuff them up and do what I call kind of crowd control. And you can also block and counter different types of attacks. And there are 3 selectable characters, and they all play in a very different way. And so it's just about making sure there's that level of complexity, keeping it simple, easy to learn, hard to master, easy to learn, and having enough variety there that the same player or a different player can pick the same character and play in very different ways and still have a blast getting through the whole game. That's one. Aside from just general quality, that's one of the main goals when working on and developing Metro Siege. So that's one of the reasons we're doing these Let's Plays and playing a lot of these beat-em-up games. It's additional sort of R&D seeing what we can borrow from these classic great games. I'm really trying to take what I loved and what I found the most viscerally rewarding in gameplay from all of these classic games, and kind of take the best of everything and leave out the worst of the aspects of the games.
So,
yep.
No people in alien costumes.
No, yeah, these cosplayers of like the Alien franchise is really bizarre. That's a very good point.
There's like a brain back there too, or no, that's probably like one of the like the hives, right? Like the fetus.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm saying that my character here, right now I'm playing as the baby in the mech.
Yep.
It reminds me of one of my favorite artists, People Craft. He's I don't know. I think he may be Swedish. I'm not sure. I think he may be Swedish.
I'll have to look him up.
His artwork is incredible. He's a 3D artist.
And you said he works in the game industry?
He does a lot of video game-based artwork.
Oh, okay, interesting.
I think he's a full-time artist, but I'm not sure if he does art for video games. I don't know. I just I follow him on Instagram. He's awesome.
Right.
And I've seen him. Like he's given talks before, and like he's a really incredible artist.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, one of the things Corey and I noticed about this game earlier on today when we were doing some test playing is there's an explosion effect that is well drawn and uses a lot of frames. I get the feeling it's close to 20 frames of animation. Yet, and then there's the other cool effect when characters do catch on fire, where they like drop to their knees, they're covered in fire, and they kind of incinerate. That's not a word. Incinerate. There we go. But it feels like they developed those two effects first early on in the development of the game, and then they like ran out of time and/or memory for the rest of the effects they wanted. There's a mech that has the power to freeze characters here. And there's like, when you freeze, when a character gets frozen, there's one sprite of like basically a big block of ice big enough to encapsulate a character. And that just kind of flickers on over the character, and then when it thaws off, it just flickers off. So you've got a 20 frame explosion, and you've got that probably, you know, whatever, 16 or 12 or something, nice, well animated incineration animation. But then some of the other effects are incredibly minimal, so it's a weird lack of balance. Like that, like you could do such a cool effect with a character getting frozen and then breaking out of it.
And the explosion's so fast.
Yeah,
it was unnecessary.
Absolutely.
You know,
very.
I think that
very
was
true.
Like, it's very smooth, but it's so quick you can barely ever catch a good glimpse of it. That's amazing about it. But yeah.
Oh, another I should mention before we hit the end of the game, we're almost there already. There are some special moves. Some of the characters can do the famous wall jump, like Guy can in Final Fight. Where don't scroll yet, guys. If you jump, let me see how to do it here. If you jump against the wall, I can't do it. I think the guy, who's the bandage guy?
I think I am. I've
okay.
never played him before.
Okay, if you jump at the wall and then away from the wall, hold away from the wall and press jump again, this might be too expert level for you to pull off.
So if I jump
at the wall and then immediately when you're touching the wall, press away from the wall and press jump again, you could bounce off of the wall. Go up higher so you're likely to hit the wall instead of... Alright, now try it. Alright, we won't linger on this too long. Yeah, no, it's going to be too hard. Maybe that wall doesn't have the collision box for it.
Gotcha.
But that's one of the special things you can do. And then the other thing is, most of the characters, if you hold up and press jump, and then immediately press attack afterwards, you'll do kind of like a spin kick thing. But it's pretty hard to get out, and I don't see that it offers much additional gameplay benefit from like a strategic combat standpoint. So,
one thing I had trouble with this game, this is my first time playing, is, like for the barrels, but most importantly, like the guys who kind of look like the Baraka or whatever the guy from Street Fighter, when they shoot ammunition at you, I think you're shooting arrows. It's very hard to evade those arrows. Yeah,
I think Corey learned in this game you can actually punch the arrows to protect yourself. You might need rapid fire for that.
It's pretty... Yeah, it's tough to pull off, like time.
Yeah.
you can technically do it. I managed to do it once with those guys, but he shoots pretty fast, so.
Yeah, you might not be able to keep punching them all before one of them hits you. Yeah, I definitely... I remember starting playing this game so many times in my youth, especially once I had MAME, but I don't think I ever played it all the way through until today.
I think the dropping barrels, because they seem so out of place.
Yeah, that's true.
Spoofing themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Super futuristic game. Oh, oil barrels. You know.
Right.
You've got a...
The actual arcade version, it's one screen with three different control layouts. Is that how it is?
Yeah, I would imagine so. I don't remember directly ever seeing this game in the arcade. I'm betting I did, but I just didn't pay attention to that. But yeah, it would have been one, you know, big or average size screen, and then spread out 3 controllers in front of the screen. Yeah, it was not 2 separate screens or 3 separate screens or anything like that, or 2 screens side by side like Ninja Turtles and a couple of other games were back then.
I like in this level how there's like the magenta infrastructure down there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mentioned that to Corey too when we were doing our first test recording, is they created this illusion of a glass transparent floor because it's parallaxed, and then they put those arrow decals and stuff on the floor, and it creates a cool transparent glass effect without actually having any kind of like Super Nintendo Mode 7 translucent colors to work with or anything like that. Like it's just actual... Yeah, it's just using the negative space and the transparent color to show the background through it, but it still feels like you're walking on a floor and not a glass floor and not floating through space. You know, floating in midair.
Instead of computer technique.
Yeah, instead of technical technical trickery, it just uses kind of mind trickery.
And one thing I did there, that's obviously very common in beat 'em ups, but it really just sucks me right into the game.
Yeah.
When you can pick up an enemy and throw the enemy or the object and hit other enemies on the screen.
Definitely,
that's just immersive for me. That just gets me right in there. Like they're no longer individual enemies, it just ties everything together.
Yeah, that's what I was calling crowd control. It's one of the most rewarding things about this genre. And it's really cool in 2-player games where the 2 players get so in sync with one another that they just instinctually, you know, like the second player will get the enemies to sort of walk in the right spot so that the other player can devastate them with a strong attack. Especially handy with boss fights and stuff like that. So, or some games built in cool moves, and some of them weren't even great games, but they had great ideas. One of them was like, I forget which one, something like Rival Turf or something like that, where one of the big playable characters you could control, who was like a wrestler, you could get 2 characters on either side of you, which they recently copied, I think, in the Streets of Rage 4, the big character. If you have a bad guy on either side of you, you'll grab them both and bang their heads together. But then there's other games that had stuff where like special 2-player combo moves. Remember like in the old WWF wrestling days, there'd be that few seconds when one wrestler tagged off with the other in his same team. They would team up simultaneously on the opponent. Well, it's getting pretty laggy. Luckily, we're at the end of the game, but wow, it's getting really laggy.
Yeah.
Can we beat this guy?
I don't know.
Is he the boss? The final boss?
I think he is. Do you remember, Corey?
Because I noticed he was sitting up on that table.
I don't.
Or is there one more?
Final one.
Okay.
But,
he's the one before, maybe? We're getting close to the end. Hopefully the lagging
There's
will...
an international gaming situation happening here.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Ouch.
Oh, wow.
There we go. I lit him
Another
on
thing
fire.
I really like that it also immerses me into the game. Of course, sometimes it can be a little bit annoying, but overall I do really like it. It's like when there's a big slam on the screen, how the entire environment shakes.
Yes, camera shake. Yeah, we have that in Nitro Siege as well. It's,
great.
Those like little extra things make the game so much more impactful. Like you can, it's part of that whole thing where, you know, the key word of video game is or video, which, you know, visual. It's communicating to the player. It's not enough that the artwork look good. It's how well does it communicate what's happening to the player and reward them in as many ways possible for doing something right, and kind of make it obvious to them when they do something wrong. And yeah, like those screen shakes and, you know, quick, the other really cool thing that you could do back in these console and arcade days and on the Amiga is you could do palette changes, which changes the entire color scheme on screen, which was virtually free. It took so little memory and no processing power to change the entire screen and make it look very different. Like if an explosion happens, you can make the whole screen glow red and fade back to the normal palette and stuff like that, which is such a powerful visual effect. But so few game developers actually put really good use to that kind of stuff. But Capcom was definitely one of the great AAA studios that did stuff like that well. They took the extra time to have the screen shake to make sure it felt rewarding when you beat the crap out of someone or pile drive them into the ground. There was the right kind of visual and audio feedback to really make it matter. Like I remember, yeah, it really does. Like a lot of the SNES-specific, SNES-made beat-em-up games, that was the problem with them compared to like Streets of Rage 2. It felt really floaty. You're kind of sliding around, and you didn't get a real sense of solidity or impact when you were punching enemies. Like you were just making your sprite play a punch animation, and the enemy sprites were playing their I got hit animation, but it just, nothing was quite right, and it didn't have that oomph, so to speak, that no pun intended, it didn't have the impact. It didn't do it quite right in the sound and the visuals. And taking the time to tweak that can really make a game go from decent to like really standing out. And you know, the team needs the time and the backing to put in the extra work and iterate and just keep tweaking the timing of the animations and whether or not the screen shakes and all that kind of stuff to make sure everything is really rewarding. Getting a feature in is, like I mentioned, some not very good games excuse me, some not very good games had some great concepts, but there's a difference between having a great idea and then taking the time to polish it and really make it pay off. And one thing Corey and I noticed when working on and sort of evolving Damon Claw as we worked on it, sometimes we had what seemed like a great idea, or at least I thought it was at the time, for gameplay or something, and then you incorporate it and even iterate it, and it's like, yeah, this just does not pay off like I thought it was going to be. It's like a great concept, but it just doesn't work in-game. And so sometimes you have to learn to just like let that idea go and spend your time and take it back out and then figure out what does work or what can be better and let the game evolve. Don't be a slave to the sort of game's design document on paper or an idea. Just because an idea is great in your head doesn't mean when you play it it's actually cool or rewarding.
That makes sense. Like when I'm in the film business and like, you know, we write scripts and we start working out and we go in with a plan. But then sometimes when you're on set, just based on the environment and the way the actors are working,
right,
you have to change your game plan a little bit and work with what's happening best.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
One of the
go ahead. I was gonna say, in terms of gameplay, that's especially true for action games.
Yeah.
Because it's all about the feel, and you'll think of this great idea in your head, and it just won't feel
exactly.
Timing.
Exactly.
Whatever, and you have to rework it. So it takes more of that experimental iteration, than say like, I'm gonna design an RPG with a bunch of numbers and systems in place that I have to balance. That still takes iteration too, but in a different way.
In an RPG game, a cool plot twist is a cool plot twist. When you reveal that plot twist to the player, they're going to go, oh, that's a cool plot twist. You know what I mean? In action games, you can have an amazing idea that conceptually is so cool, but because of the way the gameplay has to be and how quickly the animation is going to play and how quickly the window of time for the player to react or to be able to appreciate what just happened, that's what happened with that Damon Claw, with the thing I'm thinking of. It was a cool idea, and then you just couldn't even tell. It was a blink of an eye on screen. So conceptually, it was like, oh, how cool, that's going to be so rewarding, and then got it in game, and it was like, there's no such thing as slowing this down or making it more visible on screen enough to make it even noticeable. So
yeah, well, it's like if you were designing this game and you were like, oh, all the characters need a headbutt, and you give it to all the characters, then you get to the baby character, and you're like,
yeah,
that might not work so well with the baby character. So you have to take it out. So
Yeah.
This is crazy. I think what these guys have like shapeshifted into ourselves, right?
Yes. Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
That is insane. Because at first I thought I was the dude, but it was it wasn't me. And
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've seen too many games where they've done this. So I think Corey too. So we weren't really that. Like it was a really clever way that they overused back in the day to get more mileage out of the same artwork in memory and just development time. So many games, it's like, haha, now this boss can make doppelgangers of you, and you have to fight yourself. Yeah, it's been done in most major franchises, I think, by now. I certainly remember it in Castlevania, certainly Symphony of the Night, I think maybe another one or two Castlevania games, and a lot of fighting games. Were you saying, Corey, that was a thing in the end of Double Dragon 2?
Yeah, Double Dragon 2 for NES. You've already got two players that are color swaps of each other anyways, because they're all twin brothers.
Billy and Jimmy,
And then you get to the last boss, and if you're playing two-player, it's like you're fighting yourselves as the last boss, like ghost versions of yourselves. So it's like four of the same exact.
Yeah. And come to think of it, that's also almost a spoof of itself. The thing I hated about the first game, like I thought it was really lame, it's like here you are, your two brothers, that you're going to rescue this girl, and, killing all these enemies and defending each other through all this, and then you fight each other to the death for someone who apparently is such a skank. She's like, so what, you just murdered your brother, I'll be your girlfriend now. You know what I mean? Like... It's just there I was, like a 12-year-old moralizing about this action game. But yeah, I remember it annoying me at the time, and I just thought it was kind of a really cheap way to add some kind of fancy ending to a game. But then in the second one, you're fighting clones of each other instead of actually each other.
Yeah, I mean, if you do it in a way where it's like it's an altered version of the player, like maybe you could have fun with it and spice it up, so to speak. But usually they don't. It's like it's just the same person, the same animations, everything, So
yeah, I really do. I have to hand it to the Capcom in this bundle, and we are not being funded by Capcom, everyone, but this bundle, not only are all the games in it very high quality, and like they seem to me to be pixel perfect arcade ports, but we're in 3 different parts of the globe, and Corey only has DSL internet, and this is very playable. I mean, there have been a few moments of noticeable lag, but still extremely playable, and we're chatting. We're doing a 3-way chat at the same time via Skype, so very impressive. Especially compared to, as I mentioned before in the other video, that Sega Classics bundle. Man, that arcade multiplayer is useless.
Yeah, not recommended for multiplayer.
Yeah, sure. Unless you're in the same room.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like we literally... we literally bought that because we wanted to let's play Altered Beast together, and we wanted to own a legit copy of the arcade of a version of the game, and then it was just completely unplayable for us. So we just had to end up using an emulation, like an open source free emulator, running on a third-party open source network plugin, ran perfectly, whereas the commercial Steam thing ran poorly.
Well, and that's the thing with like Altered Beast or the Mega Drive games. They were only 2-player. There was a lot less going on too. Like there's a lot going on here.
Yeah,
with 3 characters. It's very sad to see.
This is the final boss, right? I think I remember now.
Yeah.
I think this ninja, as much as I love ninjas, I think the ninja's my least favorite character.
Yeah, he's well done, but he's the most sort of generic, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Like he is quintessential ninja. There's nothing that, like, you don't see mummy characters that often, especially with a backward baseball cap.
Right.
And you know, you definitely don't see a baby in a mech all that often. Although it seems to me it took influence from, what was his name, Master Blaster from Beyond Thunderdome or whatever, from Mad Max. But you know, the midget on the back of the dude, the big guy. But anyway,
I like in this game the power-ups, like those weapons that you pick up are really powerful. And like when there's a wave of enemies, I kind of picked it up and then waited for a wave of enemies to come on the screen and just kind of wipe them all out one time, especially like the rocket launcher. Now
would be the time for me to get out that special jump flip move, but I'm having a hard time.
The range of the power-up items is hilarious to me. Like they have like assault rifles, and then you get like a comical mallet. You know, like it's very strange. Yeah, very goofy game, but in a way it's memorable. You know, like I remember this back in the day. So
No, there's the freeze, by the way, everyone. One image of a block of ice, and it just flickers the ice on and then flickers it back off. It could have looked so cool if it appeared with the shine and had a little frost effect, and then when the character broke out, it shattered into little ice shrapnel. But then you've got to
shatter. It's got.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it should. It should. Yeah. Look at that. Even the droplets of water on the ice don't move. It's just not animated at all. Yet in the same level of the same game, the explosion is like 20 frames of animation.
How many frames per second is this game?
That's a great question. I'm going to assume 60 frames per second if you're running it on the arcade board. Some arcade boards ran less than 60 frames per second with specific games. Double Dragon 3 was horrendous on the like in the arcade, really poor. It shocked me how bad the frame rate. I didn't even know what frame rate was back then, and it shocked me how choppy and poorly that game ran. But most of the AAA games, I think, ran at 60 frames per second, at least in places that, you know, with the Japanese and American, what is it, NTSC standard? Yeah, 60 frames per second. That's a guess.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think my favorite move so far in the game is the jump kick.
Yeah, the most handy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it tends to be the case. That jumping up kick is not proving itself. I certainly haven't practiced.
That was my whole Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles strategy back in the day. Jump kicking all the time, because you could do it so fast. You could just boom, 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 like get through the whole game.
Yeah, I think in Ninja Turtles, it moved at a very sharp, fast diagonal downward, right?
Yeah,
when you did the jump kick,
you could do it
kind of rock it in. Yeah.
Not very floaty or anything.
Yep. I hope the conversation and the graphics are interesting to people, because we're playing poorly because we've not practiced this game much at all.
Never even played. It's my first playthrough.
Yeah, there you go.
But I'm getting the technique down now. I'm learning this boss. Like, he kind of floats around and then he raises up and then he fires his weapon, and I gotta get out of there.
Yeah, but by the time I get within range, he's moved again. And
got him.
I'm just cannon fire. There we go. There we go. The end. Yeah, very cool. I'm really glad that we figured out how to get this working decently with the three-way chat and gameplay, because there's several other 3 or even 4-player games. I definitely wouldn't push it and try getting a 4th player on, as you know, for the bandwidth issues. But yeah, I look forward to playing some other games with you guys. You know, there are several more left unplayed on this bundle. That was a blast. I'm ready. If you want to have me back on as a guest, I'll come back anytime. Awesome. Yeah. And like I said, we're also doing more sort of research to really remember what was the best parts of all these games and make sure they, if it makes sense at all, that they make their way, or some variation of those gameplay and design elements make their way into Metro Siege. So what was your big takeaway from this one? Was there a big takeaway? Or not really. It was cool. I'll have to go back and look at the footage or replay. I didn't spot the electrocution effect you were talking about, but maybe I'll put it side by side in this video so people can see the Metro Siege electrocution effect and this one to see how much I sort of accidentally copied it from memory.
That'd be cool. I think it happens when there's like, I think there is a female character and they kind of, all three of them come on the screen and they shoot out some sort of electric bolt on the ground.
Okay. Yeah, I remember it was pretty early on in the game, so it shouldn't be too hard to find again. Thank you, Corey, for playing along. Thank you, Bill. And everyone, I will put links to Amiga Bill's 2 channels and to the original live stream that Bill had me on, where I really talked a lot about our projects, meaning Corey and myself as BitBeamCannon, including Metro Siege. And you'll get to watch Bill play through the original first ever played to the public demo version of Metro Siege.
Which is awesome.
Thank you very much.
And the thing that really blew me away, like everything blew me away about it. Of course, the fact that it was playing on an Amiga 500, which is phenomenal. Like it really shows what you were talking about, how this machine had so much more capability, and it was just a lot of people kind of used it almost more as a tech demo versus quality gameplay. But the machine obviously is very capable of quality gameplay. And the other thing that really it just blew me away, like when you had a character with AI that could like play along with you. That I was just like, are you kidding me? Like the gameplay is so good already. But then you can add a character with AI. It was amazing.
That was actually something. I can't remember what game it was, but there was one of the AAA companies made a game, maybe you remember, Corey, on the Super Nintendo that it was a 2-player brawler game, but if you were just yourself, 1 player, you could go into the one of the options was 2-player parentheses CPU, and it would actually have the second player be controlled. I think it actually was Brawl Brothers by Jalico on the Super Nintendo, which is a very, very high quality brawler, but it was the one of the many that even though it was high quality, you didn't have that same sense of actual contact of impact when you were getting hit or hitting. But otherwise, it had very nice graphics, great music, and otherwise very solid gameplay. Just less viscerally rewarding because you didn't feel the impact as much. But anyway, so yeah, that's the other thing with working with an amazing programmer like Alex, who programmed several Amiga games, the most recent of which, besides Metro Siege, was Worthy. And working with a programmer like that, like I'm super obsessive about learning. So is Corey, thank goodness. Like he's, you've seen what he's done with Damon Claw so far, and the other project we're working on. And I can't wait to have his additional artist horsepower on Metro Siege. And but yeah, like we're both obsessive about learning the technical graphical constraints of a system, and then just learning how and figuring out how to make the best of it and just make it look like it doesn't have those limitations. And yeah, so I forgot where I was going with that, but it's
well, the AI cooperative.
Oh yes, thank you.
It wasn't that wasn't a common feature in these.
No, not at all.
Plenty of brawlers back in the day on Super Nintendo and stuff. You mentioned that one, but I played a lot of the popular ones, and none of them had that. And
exactly.
It was kind of sad playing it, single player. So
the only one I remember for sure, I know there was at least one. I'm almost certain it was Brawl Brothers by Jalico on the Super Nintendo. I think there may have been one other game I've ever seen that had that feature, but I remember mentioning that possibility to Alex, and like many amazing things when we started up Metro Siege, like I'm mentioning some of the most complicated tricks that were ever done in other Amiga games or console or arcade games. Like I'll mention it to him, and the next day or hours later, he's got it working. And like being on a team with so everyone is so passionate about it and so talented and so dedicated to putting in the iteration, and it's not just graphical, it's sound, making sure we get simultaneous sound and music in the game, and just as high quality as possible. John, who was the artist for Worthy, the graphic artist, is doing the soundtrack for Metro Siege and doing an amazing job. And there's the whole team is taking that extra time and effort. We've iterated so much. Like since you've played the demo, the combat has gotten so much more perfected. The AI has been further improved. We have a lot more enemies. We're working on the 3rd level now. The level 1 boss fight is mostly done. Level 2 is I'd say 70 or 80% done, with its own unique enemies, with their own special behaviors. Like one of the cool things, the new enemies in level 2, there's a guy I wanted to be especially annoying who's like a cliched spiked-haired punk rocker that's called Bile.
Like Guile?
Yeah, like Guile, but bile, like, stomach acid. But yeah, exactly. But so he's supposed to be annoying, and I explained that to Alex. I said I want him to have really annoying footwork, so he's kind of like zipping around outside of your range, and then he'll zip in and try to attack you or jump kick you. And just remember, this is like a humble Amiga 500. Any Amiga with a meg of memory, he's got this running incredibly smoothly on, with 4 players and 2 players and 4 enemies on screen, parallax scrolling, lots of colors, screen shakes, all that kind of stuff. And he was able to get in this incredibly natural looking, perfect, just the right balance of annoying but still human looking footwork movement. And the latest thing we just got in, which is a little bonus information for people that make it to the end of this video, I requested, it was annoying me playing the game. I've replayed the game so many times testing and just trying to improve the gameplay, really spending that extra time to tweak every, the size of collision boxes, the timing of the animations, all that stuff is so critical to make the game as good as possible. And because we don't just want to make the best fighter game that ever existed on the Amiga. This game is going to be released on most modern platforms and also classic Amiga. And it just needs to be absolutely a fantastic retro brawler game. You know what I mean? Like, it's not good enough to just be the best brawler game on the Amiga. So we're really taking that extra time. But anyway, I said to Alex, it would be so cool if a well-timed counter, how like in Metro Siege, you can actually counterattack. You can block and counterattack enemies if you time it really well. And I said it would be so cool if you could even do that to enemies that were jump kicking in at you. And he got that working, and it is so rewarding. Bile is zipping around doing his annoying footwork, and then he jumps in and he thinks he's going to drop kick you in the face, and you actually like parry his kicking leg to the side and uppercut him out of the air. It is really, really gratifying. So we're really spending that extra time to just really perfect everything. So hopefully that'll show. Yeah, we'll make sure. But by the time we can get back on your show, we'll make sure we have some kind of exclusive thing to reveal on your show again.
Oh, I can't wait. That's gonna be great.
Awesome. All right. Well,
thanks, guys. That was amazing. That was a lot of fun. Let's do it again.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks very much, guys, and thank everyone very much for watching.
If you enjoy our content and want to keep up to date on our games, please leave a like and subscribe. Also, if you want to support our projects, consider becoming a patron. The link's in the description, and we'll see you soon.